fair.
Ted Crawford is a wealthy aeronautical engineer based in Los Angeles. His job is to evaluate the structural integrity of different kinds of aircraft. Ted is working on the design of an aircraft's body. He notices a flaw and immediately hands it over to his colleagues before leaving in a hurry. He drives up to an apartment block where his wife is cheating on him with her lover. He spots them from the outside and enters the property. He watches them secretly from a distance. In the evening, Ted's wife drives home.
Hello there.
You're home early?
And as she enters the house, she is surprised to see Ted back home early. He tries to talk to her, but she is uninterested. Instead, she tells him that she's going to make dinner. He asks her about her affair. She stops, surprised, and apologizes to him, but he takes out a gun and shoots her in the head. The gardeners hear the gunshots and knock on the door to check on the couple's well-being. Ted fires a few more shots towards the door, and they run away in fear. Ted picks up the cartridges from the floor, washes himself, and burns the clothes he was wearing. He then waits for the police to arrive. Outside his home, a massive police group has arrived. As it turns out, his wife's lover is Lieutenant Rob. He speaks to Ted through the intercom from outside the house, and Ted lets him come in. Ted calmly informs Rob that he has shot his wife. Lieutenant Rob is shocked when he finds out that the dead woman is his lover. He is distraught to see her dead, and he attacks Ted, but the other cops rush in and save him. Ted is arrested and handcuffed. The doctors check on Jennifer and find out that she is still breathing. Ted is put inside the police car while Rob goes back to the room where the body was found, still in shock. William Beecham, also known as Willie, is a district attorney, employed with the city of Los Angeles. He has been selected to be employed in a private firm on a high-paying job, and he is congratulated by his co-workers for it. He's excited to represent the city against Ted in the homicide case. Since there are witnesses available and Ted's confession, Willie believes this won't take long. At the preliminary hearing, Ted states that he doesn't want a lawyer. Both the judge and Willie are surprised and advise him to accept a lawyer. He is, however, adamant and asks to be transferred to the trial as soon as possible.
No, I like Mr. Beecham.
Mr. Beecham.
Stating that he likes Willie and wants to end this case soon before Willie's resignation. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Rob is at the hearing too, and he sits with a long face, staring grumpily at Ted. Later, Rob walks up to Willie when he's about to leave the courthouse and warns him about Ted. But Willie is confident that he will win the case. Later that night, he's at a bar, drinking. A woman walks up to him and introduces herself as Nikki Gardner, his boss. She talks to him in a seductive yet assertive voice, which is confusing for Willie as he has never been part of a corporation before. Their conversation is getting interesting when a phone call from Willie's colleague interrupts them. He says that the weapon they found at Ted's house was never used.
The gun. It's no good.
What do you mean the gun's no good?
Also, Ted never left the house that night after committing the crime until he was arrested, and therefore he did not have a chance to change weapons. Willie goes to the crime scene in the morning. He discovers that Ted had no gunpowder on his body or hands, but 4 bullets are missing from the cartridge. However, there are no fingerprints on the cartridges. He thinks that the weapon is still in the house. So he asks his colleague to continue searching and leaves. He is curious, so he goes to meet Ted in jail. Early on in their meeting, Ted hints to Willie that he knows him inside and out. He knows what cases he is taking on and what he is doing. Ted teases him further by inviting him to become his defense attorney, suggesting that he has a chance to switch sides before things get ugly. But Willie refuses. As Willie gets up to leave, Ted tells him a story from his childhood. Ted's father, an egg farmer, asked him to inspect 300 eggs and put the bad ones in a bucket. He put all 300 eggs in the bucket because he discovered flaws in every single one of them. He reminds Willie that if you look closely enough, you can find flaws in anything. Willie asks Ted if he has discovered his weakness, and Ted says he already has. The trial starts the next day. Willie calls witnesses to ask questions while Ted sits quietly, drawing aeronautical designs on his notepad, without paying attention to the proceedings. Willie calls Lieutenant Rob as a witness, and he states that Ted has confessed to killing his wife. At that moment, Ted, who paid no attention whatsoever throughout the trial, suddenly objects and states that Lieutenant Robb had an affair with his wife. The whole courtroom is shocked. Even the judge is taken aback. Ted repeats that Lieutenant Robb was having an affair with his wife and that he has proof of it. Lieutenant Robb gets up from his chair and jumps on Ted, but the marshals restrain him. Robb's superior is pissed at him, and he is dragged out of court. Later, the judge sits with Willie and Ted. Ted says that he has evidence of Lieutenant Robb and his wife's affair. He adds that since the lieutenant was present at the time of the confession and had beaten him up, Ted had to give a false confession. As a result, the judge rejects the confession and gives Willie a few days to find more evidence, failing which she will let Ted go. Later, Willie's boss scolds him for not being focused enough and going to the trial unprepared. Willie tries to explain that this is a setup, but his boss accuses him of being arrogant and drops him from the case. Dejected, Willie goes to see Nikki, who tells him that his defeat wasn't taken well by his new bosses, but she fought for him and saved his job. She put herself on the line for him. One thing leads to another, and they end up sleeping together. When he returns home, he receives a package from Ted containing a cracked eggshell. He's furious, and the next morning, he goes to his boss's office to inform him that he wants the case back. His boss reminds him that if he fails, he will lose his new job as well. Nevertheless, he is determined to work on the case because his ego has been hurt. Later, Willie goes to the motel where the lovers used to meet and asks for the CCTV footage. He visits Ted's office too. While he's there, he receives a phone call from Ted, who mocks his efforts. So, Willie goes to the hospital in the hope that Ted's wife will wake up. A doctor enters and informs him that even if Jennifer regained consciousness, she would not be able to speak, let alone remember who shot her. The next day, Willie is in Nikki's family home for Thanksgiving. The case is discussed during the meal, and Nikki's brother mocks Willie for losing the case. Nikki tells her brother that Willie is off the case. Nikki doesn't know that Willie has taken up the case again and is angry when she learns of it. She argues with Willie about how she risked herself to save his new job, but he bluntly replies that he didn't ask her to do it. Nikki is understandably upset and she leaves. But Nikki's father, a judge, encourages Willie to fight for justice. Later that night, Robb visits Willie and offers to plant false evidence, but Willie refuses. The next day, Willie gets the CCTV footage, but because Ted's face was covered by his hat, it is not presentable in court. Facing defeat, he calls Robb to help present false evidence in court. He has mixed feelings about what he's doing, so he visits Ted's wife in the hospital to think over his actions. The next day, he asks his secretary to help him lie in court. He asks her to wait outside the courtroom. He will call her, and she will rush to him and whisper in his ear that they have found the evidence. He then takes her to the court. As soon as the trial begins, Ted moves a motion for his acquittal. He explains that all the witnesses against him are influenced by Lieutenant Robb and that Willie doesn't have any evidence against Ted. The judge asks Willie if he has any evidence that can prove that Ted is a killer. Willie is about to call his secretary, who is waiting outside the door, but for some reason, he gives up at the last minute. He admits that he has no evidence, and as a result, Ted is released. Suddenly, Willie hears a gunshot. He rushes out and sees that Robb has shot himself. Meanwhile, Ted gets his gun back and returns home in a police car, while on the other hand, Willie stays in the hospital, waiting for Ted's wife to come out of her coma. The next morning, Ted arrives at the hospital and wakes him up. Willie is worried that Ted will kill his wife by stopping her life support, so he goes to Nikki's office and begs her to help him, but she tells him that he should not be here.
This man's gonna kill his wife.
He tells her that Ted is going to kill his wife, but she doesn't care. She hasn't forgiven him for his insensitive words. So he rushes to his boss to ask for his help, but he learns that Ted has filed a restraining order against him because he spends whole nights in his wife's chamber. His boss sternly advises him to stop. With no other option in hand, Willie turns to Nikki's father, who attests an order allowing him to go to the hospital to defend Ted's comatose wife. With the court order in hand, Ted rushes to the hospital. He arrives at the hospital, but gets into a scuffle with the security. By that time, the life support for Ted's wife had been turned off, and she dies. A few days later, Willie is clearing out his garage when his boss visits him and asks him to return to work. But Willie is guilty about letting Ted walk free, and so he doesn't want to rejoin. His boss doesn't push him any further and steps out to leave. But before leaving, he reminds Willie that it was an attempted homicide and not an actual homicide, as Ted's wife died in the hospital. Willie thinks about it and goes back to his office to visit his colleague. Their phones are placed next to each other. Absent-mindedly, his colleague picks up Willie's phone because the two are identical. This brings up a revelation in Willie's mind. Meanwhile, Ted calls Willie again to mock him and invites him to his home to give him a gift before he leaves on a trip.
So, what do you think?
Oh, yeah.
But now, Willie has realized the whole story. He deduces that Ted purchased a gun just like Rob's, then went to the motel to exchange the two firearms. When Rob saw his lover on the ground, Ted exchanged the gun again. This is why Ted's gun was never found. Ted smiles, confirming that what Willie said was accurate. He boasts that he used one shot to kill two rabbits. He says that even if Willie gets the evidence now, he cannot prosecute Ted, as the same person cannot be charged twice for the same crime. Willie, on the other hand, says that since Ted had let Jennifer die, he could charge Ted with first-degree murder, a new charge. The police are already there to arrest Ted, but Ted is not too worried about that, as the hospital was the one who stopped his comatose wife's life support, and not him. Nevertheless, Ted is arrested and presented in front of a jury. Willie is alone during the new trial about to begin, but this time, Ted has a team of defense lawyers to fight his case.